Hello everyone, KROW here. Today we have Herloaf, EU's most dominant Bastion one-trick who has peaked at rank 12 this season and is probably the biggest winner of the current meta. Starting off the game on Numbani, the enemy DPS lineup is Echo Junkrat. Maybe they recognize Herloaf as the famous Bastion one-trick and decided to pick his counter straight from the get-go. The ally team's strategy is to go from the basement and use Symmetra's teleporter to cross into the enemy high ground, almost like we're watching a tournament. I'm guessing someone is making macro calls on the team. Herloaf flanks around the back and catches the enemy on off guard, securing the first kill. Bastion left clicks aren't that easy to land, but you know what? That was pretty clean. When the enemy tank enters in, Herloaf baits the Zarya further into the room, collapsing down on each isolated target. From the enemy Zarya's perspective, without the Ana available for sustain in the open, they had to back off into the room and play for cover. Once inside, well, what do you know, there's a Bastion ready to gun him down. After spotting the enemy Junkrat, the ally Rein charges straight at the isolated target, but losing a massive chunk of health in the process. Seeing this, the enemy Echo flies in at a potential opportunity, but Herloaf uses sentry mode to peel for the Rein and counter pressure the enemies away. Using the space created, the ally Mercy is able to res the Rein back into the fight, and when the enemies start to push back in, Herloaf uses his artillery strike to defuse the incoming pressure, which goes to show his ability to read the flow of the game. Our Bastion peeks past the corner and forces out the enemy Echo's duplicate. But with 3 active ults from the enemies, the team quickly rotates out and into cover. After regrouping, the enemy Echo flies forward into the open to pick off the ally Symmetra. Herloaf chunks down the Echo's health and lands a sick prediction shot. When the enemies get aggroed onto his teammates, Herloaf is able to turn risky situations into opportunities as the Bastion, which is only possible because of his ability to read the flow of the game. This time in reverse, Herloaf flanks around to the other side to take the aggro. He pulls the enemy Zarya into the corridors in the direction of the allied Rein, ults to force the Zarya's second bubble, getting a free teamfight. Even in this quick moment, there are additional details Herloaf takes advantage of. When Bastion transforms from recon to artillery mode, his Ironclad passive still applies a 20% damage reduction, which compounds with the armor, effectively giving Bastion 450 health. In situations where the enemy is dishing damage into you, or if you're getting hard pressured, you can survive through the damage by transforming. Furthermore, the damage output of Bastion's ultimate counter-pressures the enemies to back off. Making use of details like this may have required you to make a conscious and active decision, but with the amount of time Herloaf has invested into the hero, now it looks to be just an instinct and second nature. With the Zarya down, the team successfully caps point B. Wait, what? How in the world did he spot that? Well, someone's spidey sense is tingling. After checking for any flanks, when the ally Reinhardt takes the aggro, Herloaf quickly takes the teleporter into the enemy backline. This time, our Bastion jumps back into cover and uses the ultimate offensively, positioning the artillery strikes up the stairs, guaranteeing the kill on the Ana. The enemy Junkrat riptires, but Herloaf angles himself from the doorway to pre-fire and punishes the Junkrat as well. Nice game sense play here, Herloaf aims his grenade in front of the Zarya while sticking to the payload. Had it worked, Zarya would have been knocked backwards, adding more distance between us and the Zarya, which would have also simplified her movement, making it easier to gun her down during the knockback. With only cleanup left, that concludes the attack. Now for defense. Yeah, well, the enemy team also speedruns through. But I promise, the second round of defense gets more interesting. We start off on high ground, but the Pharah boops us off. But like playing against a Widowmaker, if you lose track of the Bastion, you're going to get instantly deleted. Nice tracking here. When the enemy Pharah tries to take cover in the corner, Herloaf uses his grenade to bounce her back out, but it surprisingly kills her there instead. Because the narrow high ground can be easy for Echo and Pharah to quickly get in and out to burst you down, Herloaf drops down to get distance away from the enemy DPS and applies poke pressure onto the enemies. He doesn't need to be persistent about staying on high ground in this case, because you can utilize your right click for movement to reclaim the height advantage when necessary. And wow, that reaction speed to the sleep dart is insane. Herloaf's playstyle truly highlights how versatile Bastion's right click is for burst damage, CC, and mobility. Point A unfortunately gets captured in overtime. Normally, with both the Symmetra ult in place and a massive Earth Shatter by Reinhardt, most players would want to walk forward while being kill hungry, but we can see Herloaf chooses to stay behind the shield and stays disciplined around the corner of the road. This allows our Bastion to react to the engaging Pharah quickly enough to punish her as the barrage begins. Because trying to burn down the Reinhardt as a Pharah Echo would put the enemies at a disadvantage, the enemy DPS has no other choice but to focus down the backline. But by staying disciplined, we actually gain the opportunity to shut them down first. It's one of the reasons why the tankiest heroes like Rein, Sigma, and Orisa pair so well with Bastion. For the final attack, we use a right click to gain high ground, which in turn creates a good angle to burst open targets. With the second right click, Herloaf is able to progressively take space up to the high ground and in the process whittling down Pharah's health and forcing the enemy supports to turn their attention to care for their DPS. With the supports distracted, Herloaf immediately peeks the unsuspecting Ana for an instant meltdown. This is one of Bastion's unique strategies on handling strong defensive holds. Another thing Herloaf does well is that when playing low ground against the enemies on high ground, he hugs the wall on the same side as the enemies, cutting off their sightline and creates vertical cover for himself. When in recon mode, he always utilizes corners for cover as well as giving him the main angle to focus down when sentry mode becomes available again. And wow, that prediction ult on where the Ana would drop down is busted. It creates the perfect opening where the enemies effectively have no support available while the Mercy is rezzing, allowing Herloaf to demech the D.Va, and well, the rest is just cleanup for the dub. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be leaving you off with some highlights from Herloaf. This is KROW, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.